15 PCA. Well, today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite series, and I think a series that every anime fan should watch. It's called Revolutionary Girl Utena. I'm not going to really do a full review on it. I'm just going to talk about it briefly and some final thoughts about it. So, spoiler alert. So, for everyone that hasn't seen it, basically don't watch the rest of this video. Also, I wanted to talk about a couple other things too real quick. The thing that's going on in Adult Swim, I read an article somewhere on, I think it was Anime News, where talking about how, it's cutting back on some of the stuff they do in anime on there. And it was kind of a long time coming, because really, recently they haven't shown anything that's worth watching. Maybe because they haven't gotten any of the new shows that were good, or got some other things. I think they should have changed our emphasis of action, because I think right now, as far as modern anime go, I think the comedies have been a little bit more better, like Lucky Star, a little bit older series, Amnesia Dio, and even really older, His and Hers, Circumstances, for Kerry Kano. I think would have been a much better choice for them to do. But anyways, they picked their choice, so now they're just going to have to sit with it, and then I don't know what's going to happen with it. I don't think it's going to be on there for much longer. But now getting back to my main point, what I was going to talk about, which is Revolutionary Utena. For me personally, I really like this series, and I try to go in my mind what's it really about. I mean, there's so many different layers to it. You can look at it, Well, let me first talk about a few things about what the series, what it is. It's about this girl named Utena Tenju who attends a Torii Academy. There she meets her friend like Ukaba, who's there, who is a real good friend and is a staunch supporter, but then it gets really twisted in the Black Rose Saga, which is my favorite saga out of the whole Utena series. And there she ends up meeting the people of the student council. And there she meets people like Toga there, Kiryu, and all these other members like Miki and Juri, and Seonji and all these, and it turns out to be that they're part of this group that that takes orders from this one organization called End of the World, and basically they're trying to possess the Rose Bride, who happens to be this girl named Anthony Himenia. And the thing is about wanting to possess it, they were promised by End of the World to revolutionize the world, and this is created when they go up to this spiral building that goes all the way up to the top, to where it's like a battlefield where they have to duel for the Rose Bride. Whenever Dole ends up possessing the Rose Bride, she becomes like I said, their bride, their fiance. And then if they can survive all the duels at the end, then they get the power to revolutionize the world. But as you watch in the series, as it turns out, one of the main person behind it in the world is who you think at the time is Anthony's older brother, and his name is Akio. And this guy turns out to be the main villain of the whole series. And I'm just going to talk about some of my thoughts about this series. And one way you can think of it as like a hero, like fairy tale, but done in more of the way of like the Grimm fairy tale ways, not necessarily like what you would see in Saturday Morning. Even though some of the episodes, I think, are Saturday Morning, particularly with Toga's sister. What's her name? I haven't watched this series in a while. Oh, what's her name? She's blonde too. God, I can't think of the name at the time, but I'll try to get back to it. She does like some of the funny things, like with an egg that she puts on her head. She wears a cowbell, so it's kind of like those old fable tales. I take from what her character is, basically. So I think that's kind of interesting. Another thing that I like about it too is like some of the little relationships in between relationships. Like they'll take little high school relationships. Well, it's a middle school, elementary, and high school, and they'll hyperactivate it. Like they'll put it to the most extreme circumstances of those high school problems and magnify them by 1,000, which I really love. I think that's interesting. And as you go on and watch, and at the very end, you kind of think, well, okay, she's the hero. But again, Anthony finds out at the very end of the series and already become the princess she wants. And her prince turns out that gave her a ring when she was a little girl, which she first met. That's what she went to the Torii Academy. Is actually, like I said, the main villain. But the funny thing about it is, she looks at this guy and she thinks she gets what she wants, but then she realizes by going to that tower in the sky, the upside down castle, that's at the dueling arena, she might lose the thing that she loves the most. She might lose her friendship with Anthony, because she has to sacrifice Anthony to get to that tower, and she doesn't want to do that. See. And I think that's when the Grimm fairy tale aspect comes into the story, because basically it's like, yeah, you get what you want, but at what cost? There's always a price to pay. You can't ever live happily ever after, and that's another thing I love about this series. And then another thing I thought was also interesting is the fact that they have these little intermission segments with these two shadow puppet girls, basically, which you find out later that worked for the theater at the local Atari Academy. And I think they kind of bring in admission to like what's going on. Some of the things are just regular stories that maybe you might not catch as part of the stories. And let me tell you, there's enough metaphors in this series to last a lifetime. Some of them you don't even think they connect, or when not connect, you have no idea what they mean. I think to me they're just memories, I guess, a part of this academy, and for the people that went there or once went there, or whatever. And I think all in all, it's a really good series, and I think you should check it out. Now here's the part where I want to show you guys what this series is all about. You know, this as far as the DVDs go, which is a really good. I think they're pretty cheap now. Here's the Black Rose Saga. You know, I really like. I think it's a good part. Like I said, my favorite. Here's Apocalypse Saga. Here's the movie, which is like abbreviated versions of the story, but they tell in a more direct way. I think. And here's both the first two 13 episodes of the series. Another way you can look at it is like Toru, Utena. Why do I say Toru? That's from Fruit Basket. But anyways, Utena is like the hero, and Anthony's like the flip side of her. You know, the more demure, not so tomboyish personality. Because Anthony ends up becoming to possess the Rose Bride, and she has to keep fighting duels, and she's a very tomboy, but she's only doing it so she can meet her prince, who happens to be Akio. And along the way, she stumbles a little bit because Toga plays those little games so that way she can possess the Rose Bride, and he thinks he knows what he's doing, but he doesn't understand. She's the one that's going to be destined to do this, not him, you know. I don't know. Overall, I really like this series, and I hope I recommend it. I hope I don't sound like being too confusing, but I really, really do like it, and I hope you do watch it too. It's Utena Revolutionary Girl. Talk to you later.